Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucks. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. And as always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Recher podcast, live from here in Amalie Arena, Suite 71. Come on by if you're in the building. You're probably not unless you work here, but man, what a great day here at Amalie. Big game tonight between the Lightning and the Edmonton Oilers. John Cooper taking on Connor McDavid, the head coach, and not the captain because Sidney Crosby was the captain, but the biggest star in the NHL, the best player. Some really great comments from John Cooper. We'll play them for you in a little bit. I just got them up on social media. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. I always want to hear from you. Shout out to Ryan B. and Benny and the whole crew. Thank you so much. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. Wasn't on yesterday. I said this months ago. Monday, February 24th, the Valspar Media Day golf tournament that I've not gotten a chance to play in for many, many years. Yesterday was the day, and it was pouring rain. It was absolutely awful weather, but we got out there for about 12 holes. My guy Aaron Jacobson and myself, we played the Copperhead course there at Innisbrook. It was a wet Monday, that's for sure, but it was a lot of fun to get out there with my guy. Again, played 12 holes, wasn't too bad. To be able to play on a PGA course, it's tough. If you ever get a chance to go play the Copperhead, do it, but just make sure that you keep the ball out of the rough, because if you do, you'll lose the ball or it'll take you forever to get out of there. But it was a lot of fun with my guy, Aaron Jacobson. Can't wait to get back out there on the course with him. Much better today. I actually won't be at the Lightning game tonight. I'm going to be on the call tonight for USF and FIU baseball over at the USF Baseball Complex. So you can check that game out as well. They won 2 of 3 over the weekend against Georgia Southern. So shout out to Coach Mitch Hannes and the crew. What do we have coming up on the show today at 12:30 today? We're going to keep the USF vibes going. Josie Foreman is going to join us. USF softball standout, hitting bombs. She hit a home run the other night for the first time since 2022. And then she wasn't done there. She ended up hitting another one. She had a 7 RBI game. USF lost the first 2 games of the Invitational. They won the next 3. And she is just an absolutely incredible embodiment of what a USF athlete is all about. So she'll join us at 12:30. Benjamin Pierce, Lightning beat writer, is going to join us at 1 o'clock. What does he have to say about the Bolts and their 5-game winning streak, and also previewing the game tonight against Connor McDavid and the Oilers? And then at 1:30 today, since we didn't have a show yesterday, the great Ian Beckles. This whole thing with the Tush Push, right? Are they going to get rid of it? Are they going to keep it? An unanimous team saying they don't like it. Well, now, as teams are speaking at the Combine today, there's more and more people complaining about it. More and more people saying, I think it's a safety hazard. I wonder if it was such a safety hazard if there was other teams that could do it. We know the Philadelphia Eagles do it with regularity and also with consistency, and they're just fantastic at it. You know that if they line up in that brotherly shove, tush push formation, you're in trouble. The Bucks actually are, ironically enough, one of the better teams that's stopping it. There aren't many out there. I know Buffalo does a similar version, but even Sean McDermott, their coach, says, I don't know if it's the greatest idea or not. All right, well, if that's the point, then really point out the issue with it as far as health and safety goes, right? So we'll see. Shout out to my guy Hammer. We'll definitely get out there, my friend. Aaron probably ate 4 glizzies. No glizzies. It was so wet, like Dolan said. It was so wet out there that even the car girl that came by, we were just like waving and just she just moved on. It was rough out there, man. It really, really was. But we had a lot of good time. We had a really good time. So it was really, really nice. And hopefully we get a chance to go out there next year when things aren't so terrible when it comes to the weather. But a big shout out to everybody at the Valspar, able to go out there yesterday for media day, which was a lot of fun. Big announcement yesterday there at Innisbrook that the Valspar has extended their sponsorship with the Valspar Championship there with this tournament through 2030. So you're going to see it for the next 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. The next 5 tournaments will stay right there in the Tampa Bay area, right there in Palm Harbor at Innisbrook. That was a huge announcement yesterday, because I know, and speaking to Rondé Barber, he wasn't, and we'll play some of those clips for you a little bit later. He wasn't worried, but for a couple of people that I was chopping it up with and talking with, they were a little apprehensive because of the live golf thing, because, right, it's not a major. How many big names are you going to get out there? Because that's a huge draw. And I always stress about supporting local and signing up for certain things. The Valspar Championship is one of the most important things. You see how many volunteers out there, how many charities are involved. I know Titus O'Neil is involved this year with some of his stuff. It's just so many good things involved with the Valspar Championship. We got to get out there and support, regardless of who's out there. But there are big names out there. Tommy Fleetwood's going to be out there. Webb Simpson's going to be out there. The big announcement to Justin Thomas is going to be out there too. Please, whatever you can do, get out there. Special musical guest, Jordan Davis, is going to be out there. Singles You Up. That's a great song too. So go check that out. It's always a great time. So please get on out there and support local. Cam White, it's March 23rd. So go FoulSparChampionship.com. All the information is on there. And it's very colorful, right? They got giveaways, bucket hats this year, because we know that's Peter Malnati's thing. So get there early, March 17th to the 23rd, 20 days away, 50-50 raffle tickets. Being a volunteer is fun as hell there too. Go check it out. Again, you got Will Zalatoris, Peter Malnati, Akshay Bhatia, a lot of great sponsors here locally. Again, ValsparChampionship.com. Go check them out. Yeah, good to see Rondé Barber yesterday there at Innisbrook. I don't know if he actually ended up getting out there playing. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Over the weekend, shout out to USF. Women's basketball continues to win. They keep on going, man. They just keep on chugging. Unfortunately, the men, with a valiant comeback against North Texas, they couldn't come up with the victory, but a lot of good times there. And as they recognize the alumni there at South Florida on the court between, at halftime, that was really, really cool to see. You want to be able to invest in your future, but you also want to be able to look back to your past and have some exciting memories and great players out there. And Omos from the WWE, Jordan Mogabin, I can't even say his last name, but Omos was out there as well, which was cool because he towered over everybody. But some, Charlie Bradley was out there as well, BJ Daniels. Really good to see everybody. And then I was on the call again for softball. Some really good games out there. Again, Josie Foreman joins us to 12:30. But one of the best moments of the weekend, Kent State, that's who the USF played Sunday night. It was a late one because the games got pushed back. And they had a young girl named Leilani go in the game. She only got one at-bat last year. This was her first at-bat of the season, and you can tell her teammates were going crazy. The Golden Flashes dugout was just going nuts. And she got in the game. She got a single, and you could see across the field the look on her face underneath, because she, wears the face mask on her helmet, and to be able to see her reaction and run into the dugout as she got, a pinch runner for her, is just a moment that I won't soon forget. That is what sports are all about. That is what college athletics is all about. I ended up sending an email to the coach and just letting her know, you guys are doing it right there. You guys are doing it right. And I know when you look at their record, it isn't great. It's a tough program to kind of work and build, but just having that discussion with Coach Jessica O'Donnell, it was really, really special. So when your kids are out there and they're doing athletics and just focus on the right things, we're seeing more and more bad videos of parents arguing and people yelling at umpires. It's not about that. It's not about that. You want to feel much better about sports and kind of the future when it comes to athletics with our kids. Go out to a softball game. Go out to a college softball game and just see how the disposition is. Because Josie Foreman, who ended up hitting a home run in that game, she was actually a pinch hitter for one of her teammates, Kathy Garcia Soto, who was playing shortstop, and coach pulled her, put Josie Foreman in, and Kathy was cheering and loud and supportive, and then Josie ends up hitting a home run soon after that. And it made you feel good about the future when it comes to our young athletes. Shout out to MSM the Byron Way, watching from Cali. What is good, Jay? What is going on with you? Hope you're well. Bringing up the Byron Way soccer, still a sore point for me when it comes to Manchester United. But the big thing right now is what is going on there in Indianapolis at the Combine. Todd Bowles is going to speak at 1:30 today. Jason Licht spoke at 11:30 today. And it was before 11:30, but some good stuff. And one of the big things about it, Jason Licht saying that Chris Godwin means the world to him, and there's nobody more resilient than Chris Godwin. If I were a betting man, I would bet on Chris. But the facts are we have to weigh through some variables here. And, you don't want to give away any of your leverage if you're the Buccaneers general manager. But with that being said, it just seems like it makes too much sense. And I know some people are out there, well, if I had the choice between Chris Godwin and a pass rusher, I would not pick Chris Godwin. I understand that. But do you understand what the dead cap is? Do you understand where that money is going to go? Is he really going to ask more? And that's the thing. All right, so let's look strictly at the dead cap hit for Chris Godwin. If they were to move on from him, the dead cap hit would be $18.8 million. Okay. Makes sense, right? But if you look at Chris Godwin, how much he's going to make, like how much do you think he's really going to get? How much do you think that he's going to get after sustaining the second season-ending injury of his career? There are obviously teams that are going to be scared. That's going to scare him away. Nah, we're good. And you look at that in comparison to Mike Evans, who average salary, 20 and a half, right? Think about that. Are you going to pay Chris Godwin 18 plus to go away? Or would you pay him maybe a fraction more of that to keep him here? Jason Light's saying that because he realizes that, hey, if Chris wants to go out there and he wants to say, I want to try to get a $25 to $30 million contract, I think Jason will look at it and go, hey, man, more power to you. Go out there and see what you're worth and try to get it. And I know Dolan's saying, hopefully at a discount, hometown discount. I don't ever like going into negotiations before UC because we don't know that. It's easy for us because it's not our money to be like, hometown discount, easy. It's not that easy, guys. These guys are only going to get paid this amount of money for a short time in their career. Whether you want to talk about it as greedy or what have you, I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. If you're Chris Godwin right now, go out and get that money. But what's the difference between 20 in Tampa and 25 in Jacksonville or 30 somewhere else, right? I think with him, married with a young child and the familiarity with the Tampa Bay area, like you look around, you go like, why would I want to raise my kids somewhere else? With the example set forth by Mike Evans, why would I want to try to go see if the grass is really greener on the other side? Mike didn't do it. So why would I? I'm just hoping that it stays the same way. Some other things that Jason Licht spoke about. Josh Grizzard, the new offensive coordinator of the team. Jason Licht saying Josh did a fantastic job all year. Everybody in the building saw how smart he is, easy to get along with, important to have as many as the offensive staff as we could. There's a lot of parts, including coaches. That continuity for the Buccaneers was so paramount to what they're trying to do going into the 2025 season. Because when you look at 2023 to 2024, or 2022 to 23 and 23 to 24, you looked at that offense with Dave Canales and you were like, okay, it was good with Baker. We want to keep some of those things, but we need some fresh ideas. We still need to find ways to be able to run the football because this isn't enough. That offense, as much as we want to say that it was good with Baker in year one, there was still a lot of room to grow. People were still wondering if Rachaad White was the right guy at RB1. is there more to go? Like the offensive line, who do you put this on? There was still some unsurety of, all right, is the offensive line? Is it the running backs? Is it the scheme? And then here comes Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen comes in here, and you go, oh my God, look at what a passing offense like this could do when you can run the football with Rashad White and Bucky Irving and Sean Tucker and, investing a draft pick into Graham Barton. Like, you get it. It makes a lot of sense. So now going into this offseason, you're like, hey, I know Liam's gone, but we got to try to keep continuity. Continuity so important going into the season because, all right, you may take a little bit of a drop off when it comes to the running game, when maybe the passing game if Chris Godwin doesn't come back, but you want to keep a lot of those same voices because you look at the success of this team and predominantly it was because of what they did on the offensive side of the ball. And with Have Grizzard, a good young mind and a lot of confidence from a lot of people, the more and more you hear from whether it's coaches or players, just anybody involved, it seems like everybody's happy with Josh Grizzard because there was options out there. You could have went the route of going and plucking from the Sean McVay coaching tree, right? Could have gotten a couple of those guys. There were some options out there. Or you just stay here and you stay with the guy that was in the building that worked with a lot of the pieces for this Buccaneer offense. I like it. Some of the other things Jason Licht spoke about, Charlie Strong, who's now joining the defensive staff here. He says he brings a lot of wisdom and leadership to the coaching staff, calls him a great person, a great football mind. We regardless of the lack of success and how it ended with USF, right? I mean, we know that Charlie Strong is one of those guys. He's well respected around the game of football, whether it's at the collegiate level or at the NFL. You saw him as an assistant coach with Alabama, right? Nick Saban's not putting you on the coaching staff if you're not respected. Charlie's getting opportunities, obviously with the Jaguars. He's been all over the country coaching football and a guy that loves the Florida area. And for him to be here with the Buccaneers, I think that makes him feel a lot comfortable. And I know his family is a lot happier about that as well. Also, and I know there's people out there that are analyzing the pass rush for the Buccaneers. We've spoken about that a lot over the last couple of weeks. Ever since the season ended, the Bucs have to find a way to get more of a pass rush. You're starting to look at these different pieces. What can you do here? What can you do here? But the pass rush is the one thing that jumps out to you. And whether it's internally, whether it's externally, whether it's through free agency or a trade or the draft, or just guys within your group that need to take that next step. Because I've always said this about sports. It's easy to denote how much worse a team has gotten from one year to the next based purely on player additions and player subtractions. You draft a big player, you're like, oh, you're probably going to be better in that spot. You lose a guy to free agency or trade a guy away, you look at it and go, you probably won't be as good there. But one of the hardest things to judge is how much of a leap a guy takes from one year to the next. Or on the other side, regression. Because nobody was out there after the 2020 Super Bowl and saying, Devin White is not going to get to a second contract. Devin White is not going to be starting at the end of his tenure with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers based purely on his lack of ability to play, right? Nobody was saying that. Also, you look at some other, you would hope a guy, remember when Shaq Barrett came in, right? Well, that's different because he came in-house, but let's see. Just looking at guys taking one step. I can't think of a great example right now because a lot of those guys were highly touted draft picks, but, guys that kind of come out of nowhere maybe a little bit, right? Where do they take that leap? Maybe Braden Point's probably a good answer. Braden Point for the Lightning. Knew he was going to be a good player, but did you know he was going to be a 50-goal scorer? Like, nobody said that when Braden Point got called up to the Lightning. But that growth that he had from one year to the next, it was eye-opening. So that's always a tough thing to be able to gauge. Where is this guy going to be this year compared to where he was last year? And, I think a prime candidate for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is Chris Braswell. Light says he's got all the traits as a person and a player to make a big jump in 2025. It's the second year that you like to see a jump from edge rushers, and he believes he has the mentality for it. If Chris Braswell can take that jump, I mean, listen, he's a second-round pick out of Alabama. If he can take that jump, we're having a lot different of a discussion when it comes to the pass rush with the Buccaneers. because now I would bank that the Buccaneers look at Yaya Diaby as one of those starters on the outside. But if Chris Braswell, during training camp and in the preseason, can take the reins on the other side, now you're starting to look at this pass rush completely different. I still think a guy like Yaya Diaby, as much as he's done a better job of getting pressures. Elite pass rushers get to the quarterback. They don't get near the quarterback. They get to the quarterback. And I know Yaya, I know he put something out there like check the tape, talking about being elite. I get that. But you also have to keep things in perspective where it's a zero-sum business at times. Sometimes it's not gray. It's black or white. You either get to the quarterback and sack him or you don't. The pressures are nice. But if you lead with pressures and then you don't get a sack, that means a lot of times you're getting there, but you're not getting home. You have to get home. You have to put pressure on the quarterback and you have to bring him down. Because what is that going to lead to? That's going to lead to second and long, third and long situations, getting off the field on third down. And, you're also going to get points where you'll have a strip sack and you'll get a turnover, which we know turnovers was a big issue for the Bucs. So to get that, and we always talk about turnovers like it's just interceptions. How about some strip sacks too? Knock that ball away, wreak havoc. And then those pressures, they're not all created equal. So get to the quarterback more. And if you do that, I think there's going to be more and more success for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers pass rush. Let's see what else we got here. Jason Light says Bucky Irving has been a fantastic player for them in a short amount of time. He accelerated their offense, and Light feels like they have an awesome running back room right now. I couldn't agree with you more. Could not agree with you more. Looking at that entire situation with Rachaad White, with Sean Tucker, and with Bucky Irving, you're going to see a lot of people now up until the start of the season speak about, oh, wow, okay, they're going to trade Rachaad White or they're going to get rid of this guy. You don't want to do things like that. You don't want to get rid of good players because you just never know when you're going to need them. You don't. We spoke about this when it came to the Rays a couple of years ago. Zach and I were going back and forth. Well, maybe if you trade a coach, and I was, please don't do that. Don't trade a pitcher because you don't know what it's going to look like. And what happened? Just a couple of weeks later, 3 different guys down for the count for the rest of the season. Why? Because of injury. And they didn't come back. And now you're looking at your pitching staff and you're going, I wish we didn't trade away any of those pitchers. They didn't. Same thing with the Buccaneers when it comes to the running back room. Listen, Bucky Irving has had 3 different injuries last year. I'm not saying he's injury prone, but it's also something to be cognizant of. You want to maintain that running back room. It's not like you have 5 guys. You're going to dress 3, maybe 4 on game day, and you want to have the ability where if a guy's banged up, he's not 100%, you're able to come back and not replace him, but have a guy in that spot that is going to be an NFL caliber running back. And we've seen with the Bucs, it hasn't always been like that. If a guy goes down, sometimes there's a precipitous drop off and you're like, oh my gosh, they got to really fortify this room. Rachaad White goes down last year. They go into the dome. Bucky has a great day, and Sean Tucker is the NFC Offensive Player of the Week. You don't want to get rid of guys like that. So the Buccaneers certainly have to be smart when it comes to situations like the running back room, and I think they've done a good job over the last couple of years of doing that. Another thing Jason Light was asked was about the entire Liam Cohen situation with him reneging on the deal and leaving to become the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. And Jason Light says time heals. And as much as a lot of people wanted to clutch their pearls and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe he did that. And would you have done something like that? I know a lot of people would say no. There's the horn at Amalie Arena here. Time does heal all wounds, right? You look at it. At the end of the day, would you rather him have done it in a different fashion? Yes. But I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm going to move on. I'm not focused. I'm not going to be watching the Jaguars every weekend praying on their downfall. No, I know it's not that big of a deal to me. Not that big of a deal to me, and I know it shouldn't be that big of a deal to you. Another quick thing when it comes to what we heard at the combine, and this is a reason why you want to be grateful to good leadership and a clear vision. And this is when you look across sports, when you look across college athletics, I've said this for many, many years. You want to make sure that you have one voice. Your one voice coming from your president, your owner, to your general manager, to your head coach, to your top players, to the last person on the bench. In college, we talk about a lot with USF. You want one voice from Michael Kelly to any of the coaches. Think about the reputable coaches that we have at South Florida, guys that are revered around the country. One voice. There's something to be said about tenure. There's something to be said about how long Ken Erickson has been with the USF softball team, about how long Jose Fernandez has been with the women's basketball team, right? And you're trying to foster that environment, that culture, so that it's not – I wonder what Ken was thinking there. Is Ken beefing with this person? Is Jose beefing with his best player? Like, you don't hear that from good teams. You don't hear that from good programs. You don't hear that from good organizations. And you see that there's a clear message and everybody's pulling the rope in the same direction. And then you go to the NFL Combine, you hear something like this from Coach Raheem Morris. Michael Penix is our quarterback. Michael Penix will continue to be our quarterback. You also hear with Terry Fontenot, their general manager, we're moving forward with Kirk Cousins as our backup quarterback. So you just paid a guy $180 million in the offseason, and now his butt is going to be planted firmly on the bench with a clipboard in his hand and a headset on, just standing there or sitting there with a ball cap on, and he's not going to play, but your first-round pick is. Those are decisions that absolutely cripple your franchise. They're killers because now you have so much financial obligations and draft capital tied into one position. This is not one of those situations where, hey, maybe you can play a different spot or you can move guys around. That's the hard thing about football, is if you invest at a position like the quarterback position, only one of those guys are playing at a time. You could pay 2 third basemen and move one of those guys to second. You could pay a couple of shooting guards in basketball and say, all right, well, one of you can maybe run the point. One of you guys can play small forward, right? In hockey, you could have a couple of centermen and one guy plays the wing. We see that with the Lightning. But in football, when the positions are so specific, if you have 2 guys in one spot, it's almost like a closer in baseball. Sometimes when you have 2 closers, you have 0. Same thing with football. And you look at from the outside how people are viewing the Atlanta Falcons. And you have to say, if you're a Buccaneers fan, you are very grateful that you're not in that same situation. Think about how different it is now when it comes to the Bucs and Baker Mayfield. For a couple of years, we didn't know after Tom Brady, like, what's the future going to hold? Hell, we go back even farther than that. Jameis Winston, the 30 for 30. You better check your sheet. I remember that clear as day, like it was yesterday, constantly defending Jameis Winston because he was such a great guy to a lot of people here in the Tampa area, but he just made a lot of poor decisions on the football field. And you didn't know, are they going to go on with this guy? Are they still going to invest in their number 1 overall pick out of Florida State? Or do they look at it and go, this guy does not take care of the football. You have to look in a different direction. Behind door number 3 or door 1, it has to be door number 1, Tom Brady. And it changed the history of the National Football League. It really did when you think about it. This is a guy that went from 6 rings to 7 rings. He proved that you can go to a different place and win without the preseason, without the training camp. Remember, that was smack dab in the middle of COVID when everything was going haywire. Nobody knew what was going on. I was there in attendance at the Super Bowl with 10,000 people, and there was 5 seats on each side of me. And Tom Brady was able to change the landscape, not just of the NFL, but also the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the franchise. And I mean, I remember being here in this building at Amalie Arena with Tom Brady sending messages, video messages, wishing the Lightning good luck in the Stanley Cup final. So it's wild how organizations can really screw the pooch. And we are so lucky to be able to look at the Buccaneers and go, wow, that used to be us. That used to be a team in disarray that did not know what the heck they were doing. And now you look at Jason Licht and you look at Todd Bowles and you look at some of these other coaches and you go, all right, let's see what these guys can do. And Jason Licht acknowledged they need help on the defensive side of the ball, and they'll start addressing that here in the next couple of weeks. All right, you want to talk about somebody that's on point. This young lady is as hot as it's going to get when it comes to being in the box and swinging the bat. Josie Foreman, USF Softball catcher. I am so happy that you can join me on the program today. How are you? Happy Monday. Happy Tuesday.
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. I was on the call. I was on the radio call the other day before you hit your first home run. And it was almost 3 years. And Derek Sharp and I were having the conversation, Josie, about, because I've been following you your whole career, and we'll talk, being a youngster, catching Georgina Corrick in a little bit, because I just thought that was so awesome to be able to see such a young player with, a senior, and how you were able to rise to the occasion and rise your level of play. And I know you've dealt with some injuries and everything, off the field stuff, but to be able to see you hit that home run, Oppo Taco, soft shell, as I like to call it. Just take us through that at bat before the rest of the crazy weekend that you had. But to be able to hit that home run, what was that like? It had to be kind of a little bit of a sigh of relief.
Oh, it definitely was. I went in like kind of just thinking singles, how can I keep it as simple as possible? And then off the bat, I mean, it was a close one, but I knew it was going to happen. And it was just, you could see the video, how excited I was. Just that feeling of like, okay, like we're back, like we're so back. So that was really exciting.
And then Olivia hits the home run. It goes in the glove, out of the glove. Like, I mean, listen, after losing those first 2 games, you guys were able to come back and play really strong. And Louisville's a good team. And, you're going against, and she ended up coming in, the co-ACC pitcher of the week there, Zavala, and she struck out the first 5 batters. And you ladies did not get your head down. You stayed with it. You're able to win that game and then propel that to win 2 more games. What was that? What did it take for the Bulls, for the green and gold there, to be able to just falter in those first 2 games, but to not get down and to be able to be successful the rest of the weekend?
I think if you even go back to last weekend and us originally against Penn State, like going down and then coming back and scoring however many runs we did, it just shows that this team is different. And that's what I tell a lot of people, like we're not willing to give up. Even our Wisconsin game, when we were down, we were getting run ruled, but we still, like, there was still fight in there. Like we refused to give up easy. And I think we've all kind of bought into that mentality of like, we're going to do whatever it takes to win this game, and kind of like comforting our pitchers. Like we got you. And that's a big thing that's happening within our team right now. Like we have a really, really good bond between each other.
You can tell, and I mean, the game on Sunday too, and we'll go back to the game, the late night game. But I want to ask you about the Troy 7 RBIs, Josie. I mean, what did you have for breakfast that day? Like, what goes into a performance like that? Do you, after the game, do you look back and go, all right, I'm going to eat this exact thing, I'm going to walk into the dugout at the same time? Like, my goodness, 7 RBIs, like that's like video game numbers.
It was definitely like, after the game, I texted my family, and the first thing I said was like, I'm never not getting my Starbucks again before. No,
What's the Starbucks order?
I had a chocolate cream cold brew with 2 pumps of peppermint and 1 pump of vanilla.
Boom. There you go. The Josie special. We got to get you like an NIL deal with these guys now.
That's a dream. That would be a dream. No, but it was really exciting. I mean, again, them going up right away, all I wanted to do was hit a ball into the gap, and that's what happened. And then kind of just like building off that momentum of, okay, like it's just another at bat. And that's what I've been working on a lot for myself, is like taking it 1 at bat at a time, taking it 1 pitch at a time, and trying not to put too much pressure in the situation. So kind of just staying calm and remembering to breathe was a key element in that.
Saturday night, I was there because I called the first game during the day, and then left and did some things, went to the basketball game, came back, and we weren't sure if even you guys were going to play because it was so late. And then the run rule happened, and you did play, and it was cold up there. I was up top above the opposing, and I'm by myself up there, and I was like, I really love this sport to be up here. I really do. And listen, I mean, you tip your hat to Kent State. Like, they didn't win a game all weekend. And that game right there, they had the lead. They had a lot of confidence. And then you didn't start that game. So I'm watching you because I'm like, oh, my God, Josie's not playing. She's not starting. And I look over, and I see you warming up a pitcher in the dugout or in the bullpen. Then I see you on the top step, and I go, this is what I love about softball. This young lady is swinging the bat well. She's not getting the start, and it doesn't affect her attitude whatsoever. And then Kathy goes up there, Coach Ken Erickson makes the move, and you come up, and I go, here it is. Here it is right here. You hit a home run that got out so freaking fast over left, and Kathy was the person. And I just saw when you went in for her, you guys slapped hands, and she wasn't like moping around. She had a great attitude, and then she turned around and she was on the top step of the dugout, and she was the loudest person when you hit the home run. So what is that? Is that just a softball thing? Is that a USF thing? Because you see it a lot where athletes, you're so emotional, you wear your heart on your sleeve. It's natural to be let down if you get taken out of the game, you would think, but just you two specifically, and I'm not saying nobody else is like that, but just take me through that entire situation right there, because I was so happy. It almost brought a tear to my eye. It was so emotional because you handled it with such maturity.
I think it goes a lot like with understanding that a coach's decision is never going to fail you. So understanding that like he has a lineup for a reason, and he puts people in certain positions for a reason. And once you get everyone to buy into that and understand that like, okay, like there's a reason this person's in, and like we all want nothing but the best because we all want to win at the end of the day. Like I would never like wish anything bad on a teammate going in like another spot. Like I want them to do the best they can. And I think that night was like really an exclamation point on like showing that, like you said, like Kathy, she was so excited for me. Like I looked over into the dugout and I saw all the girls dancing, and like I like cracked a smile, and one of the girls was like, I knew right then and there you were gonna hit a home run. But like just like knowing that I have like 25 other girls behind me supporting me in that situation, which is a pretty nerve-wracking situation.
Right.
I called my parents and I was like, I think that's only the second time I pinched it in my entire life. But just knowing that I had all of them behind me, and that's something we talk about a lot, like, is you don't need to worry about like your outcome because you have 25 other people behind you. Like, don't try to be a hero in that situation. Sometimes it happens, but like keeping it simple and understanding that like if you can't do it, the person behind you is going to, and the people in the dugout are going to be there to support you through it all.
I love that. Tell me about playing for a guy like Ken Erickson, a fellow Long Islander like myself. You got to bust his chops for me. Make sure you get him on the podcast, because I know he's a busy guy. And I know he doesn't do a ton of media, but I'm going to try to get my guy, Coach Ken, on, because I played softball. I played fast pitch growing up. My dad was a ranked pitcher, so like softball's huge in my house growing up. But to play for a guy like that, former Olympic coach, like he's been around this game. He isn't just a baseball convert. Like this is a softball guy. And you've been around him for years now. I mean, you're probably one of the more, longest tenured Bulls that he's had. Like, what is it like to play for Coach Ken?
I think it's a good learning moment, because like every day he comes with something new, it seems like, but that you're going to still have your old school ways, and you got to respect it, because I mean, he's going to want the best from you, and he's going to push you to be your best, but not only on the field, off the field too. And like being in grad school and being around, more professional people as I get older, it goes to show like, okay, like he set me up not only for softball, but for life too. Like I have these skills that I can transfer into my profession and that sort of stuff. So I think like understanding that he's always going to want the best for us, and he's always going to teach us, and he's always going to be there to answer your questions. And it's good to take advantage of those questions.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's just been around. Just think about all the people. It's not the life we live is not a what you know life. It's a who you know life. And knowing a guy like Ken Erickson certainly helps. Really cool to see Georgina Korick on a lot of the ESPN Plus broadcasts for you guys. And I just remember, that was one of either my first or second year doing some radio stuff with USF Softball. And it just seemed like every single day when you showed up to the park, Georgina might throw a no-hitter today. Like she might throw a perfect game that you just never know. And I remember somebody remarking like, yeah, and look at that young girl that's catching her. She's a freshman you are a freshman, right? Freshman?
Yes,
sophomore? Yeah,
freshman and sophomore.
So I'm like, yeah. And you didn't look like, it wasn't people looked at you like, oh, look at the freshman. She's doing the best she can. It was like, no, she's legit. Like she's like, you're matching. You were a big reason why, in my mind, the greatest pitcher in USF history, baseball or softball, had a lot of success. Like, what was that like going into a program knowing that you have somebody as talented as Georgina, and not only to just go in there and play with her, but also achieve some incredible success?
I think initially coming in, like, everyone knew who Georgina was, and it's almost like I was super excited to work with her. And there was like some nerves. A couple of the first bullpens did not go how I planned for them to go, but kind of like trusting myself and trusting the opportunities that I'm going to get, and understanding that like George is someone who, she doesn't have many mistakes. So I'm going to like take advantage of that and like make her look even better the best way I can. And understanding that like iron sharpens iron. So I want to compete at that highest level, and she's giving it to me. So how am I going to use this opportunity and thrive from it? So I think it had a lot to do with her experience and her being good. It just continued to push not only me, but the team. And I think that's why we were able to make it to the postseason both of those years.
Yeah, and I know that's a big goal for you ladies this year, and I know you keep pushing, good things are going to happen. Take me through sharing some of the backstop, duties with Camille back there. Saw her playing some first. I know sometimes you catch the DP. Take us through that relationship and how that's like where, sometimes you're going to catch, sometimes you're just going to hit. How does that change your preparation? Because we've seen that in baseball and softball where a lot of times a hitter struggles when they're not defending as well, because there's a lot of free time, between ABs.
I think it has a lot to do with, again, like I've worked a lot on my mental side of the game, and that's one thing that we had meetings with coach prior to season starting, and he kind of like said it clear, like this is your role, this is what's going to happen throughout the season. And the three of us catchers have already built like a super strong bond. So again, like going back to like we want nothing but the best for each other, and embodying the role that we're given. So when I'm catching, the hitting just kind of happens, and then I go back on the field and forget about whether it's good, bad. But when I'm in the DP role, it's more so like understanding like, okay, I need to control myself on the mental side, whether it's a good at bat, bad at bat, and understanding like, okay, take my 30 seconds, do my breathing. The breathing has been a big thing for not only me but the whole team. And then I'm back on the fence cheering, because that's truly like that's my defense when I'm I'm in the DP role. So understanding like I need to do those things to get my mind back in the game, and get involved, and how can I help like contribute to this play from being in the dugout? How can I pick a sign? Sort of just keeping myself busy and still involved in the game.
One thing I love about softball is exactly that. And I don't know if a lot of you guys recognize, but Kent State had a young lady, Leilani, that went in as a pinch hitter late in the game, and it was 8-3. She came in off the bench. She only had one at-bat last year. That was her first at-bat the other night against you guys. She hit a single. She got pinch ran for it, and the look on her face, everybody was going crazy. They lost by 5 runs. It did not matter. That young lady that's been on this team for the last 2 years, she's gotten 2 at-bat. That was her first collegiate hit, and everybody went crazy. And after the game, yeah, they were upset they lost, but they had a hit. She got a hit, and it's a moment that I'm sure that she'll never forget. But they had a full cheer for her, like the entire time she was up there. And I was thinking to myself, this young lady has had 2 opportunities in 2 years, and they had a full cadence and everything. Do you guys have a specific song for each batter, and how do you prepare that before the season starts? Because I'm just like, my goodness, that's a lot to remember.
I don't know if you ever hear Kathy in the dugout, but you probably do.
Yes,
but most
we do.
of the time, half the things that she says is like on the spot. Like we'll think of stuff on the spot, and we'll just kind of roll with it. And then if someone else goes in, we like think of something that's gonna work for them and just roll with it. And whatever works, it tends to stick with them. But there really is no preparation or anything like that. It's just almost like freestyling.
I love that. What's been your favorite moment so far playing for USF, with this being your last season?
Oh man, my favorite moment. It's not like a specific moment, but I just love being around the girls, especially this year. Like, I love the way that we push each other, we hold each other accountable, and like, kind of, it's almost like a feeling of not like I created this, but I've been a part of like watching this team develop into what it is now for
Right.
5 years, and not many people get to do that. And falling into a role where people can look up to is really cool, and it really makes me excited for where this team's going to go.
Personal and team goals for the rest of the season, and then what after grad school, like after this season, like what's going to replace kind of this intensity? And because you've been a softball player for so long, you got to be able to fill that void somehow.
So personal goal is just to continue having fun, like taking off all the pressure of the game, and going back to like when a little 8-year-old Josie was playing. Team goals: win everything we can, win conference, win regionals, win super regionals, just keep winning. And then for next year, I luckily am in a 2-year program. So
Nice.
as of right now, I think I'm going to still be with the team in a GA
Nice.
role.
Oh, great.
So I don't have to like cut off softball completely and slowly
Right.
work my way out. But depending on how my internship ends up this summer and where I land for that, maybe I'll play some softball over the summer, but kind of just gonna enjoy being in the moment and being able to travel, and kind of just having a summer of like, this is what it's like without softball, and then being able to go right back into it.
Well, Josie, on the field, you've been such a joy to watch, but off the field, you are those people that when anybody ever says like, there's so many little girls and young ladies that go to your games, and when they watch you and how you handle your business, and it's been like this for 5 years, you are one of those people that I say like that is not only a representative of her team but also our community. So you have made the entire Tampa Bay area proud every single moment that you've donned the green and gold. So thank you so much for all that you've done. I cannot wait to watch more of your games and call more of them this year. And thank you so much for your time today. Again, bust Coach Ken's chops because we got to get him on the podcast here, but continued success. Make sure you work on that NIL deal for Starbucks, okay? And have your, what was the order again?
The venti chocolate cream cold brew, 2 peppermint, 1 vanilla.
There you go. That is the Josie Foreman special. So if you want your young daughter out there to play like Josie Foreman on the softball field, that is the order you need to get them at Starbucks. Josie, you're the best. Thank you so much again for your time. Best of luck the rest of the season. Talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
You got it. Josie Foreman. Wow. Go back and look at the statistics from last weekend. Insane. And the great thing about the swings, too, aggressive, hitting the ball to all fields, hitting the ball to left field, hitting the ball to right field, 7 RBIs. And that is part of the reason why I love softball so much, because baseball and softball is a game of failure. You have to learn how to struggle. You have to learn how to deal with failures. You have to learn how to deal with people from all these different backgrounds. And that is what it doesn't matter what the score is. It doesn't. You could be down, you could be up. One of the most impressive things they did all weekend was fending off the run rule from Wisconsin. And they just kept battling and hitting and just going and going and going. It doesn't stop. We were there a couple of Sundays ago. My parents were in town, and we watched USF against Florida. And the Gators were just insane. Probably the best team I've seen this entire year. And they hit as good as anybody. And at the end of that game, you're looking at 2 players on the field laying it all on the line, playing fantastic defense. And they're just like, it doesn't matter what the score is, because they're focused on the process. They're focused on doing whatever it takes to put their team in a position to succeed. We're so bogged down at times with, oh my gosh, the result, and everybody's like just worrying themselves. I like it. And it's just so much fun to be able to watch them do their thing. And you have the right coach. You have the right coach with a guy like Ken Erickson. And again, go out and support all things USF. Go usfbulls.com, all the information on there. Go get your tickets there. And again, I'll be in action tonight with baseball as they take on FIU. And then softball, they return to action, the Longhorn Invitational. So they'll travel to Texas to take on, man, I wish I could go with them. You guys need somebody to go with you. They're going to take on New Mexico State on Friday. and they take on the number 1 team in the country, Texas, on Friday at 5:00. Wow. Maybe I could text somebody. You guys need somebody to go to Texas for you? They play Texas twice. They play them Friday and Sunday. They also play Abilene Christian and Alabama A&M. Wow. I didn't ask her about that, but I probably should have. They'll also play Florida again later on in the year. Some really, really good stuff. So there you go. USF record 13-4 on the season. Best of luck to Josie Foreman, Ken Erickson, and the entire USF softball program. All right, I want to get to something real quick as we get ready to talk to our guy Benjamin Pierce from the Tampa Bay Lightning. John Cooper spoke earlier today, and this is going to be interesting because this is the first time that John Cooper will face Connor McDavid since he coached him at the Four Nations face-off that we saw last week. A lot of us Americans not too happy with how it ended, but it's got to be special for John Cooper and to see, and this was earlier today. I'm going to bring this up real quick because a lot of people don't know. So this is how it works out. So we get here, and usually we get here for morning skate, and we're sitting here, and after a half hour, we go down to the locker room. We talk to some of the guys, and then 15 minutes after that, say, all right, let's go to the other room and speak to Coach Cooper. But today, since it was an optional skate, we didn't necessarily have many players to talk to because there weren't that many people here, right? So they go, all right, we're waiting for John Cooper. So waiting for Coop. And then it's like, all right, well, the room's open. So now we go into the room. And then there's not that many players. And it's like 2 minutes then there. All right, John Cooper. He's ready for you guys. All right, Cooper's ready for us. And then we walk back into the room. And when we walk back into the room, this is who we see when we walk in. There's John Cooper sitting there, waiting, chilling. There's Coop. And the Edmonton media, they can't get enough, right? We were discussing this with some of the guys that cover the Oilers. They've had 8 coaches, I think, there in Edmonton since John Cooper took over for Guy Boucher with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Amazing. So you have that. And then he was asked by Gabby Shirley about coaching against a guy like Connor McDavid because he spent so much time with him, right? This is one of the best players in the world. What is that going to be like? And I thought that was very interesting to hear what he had to say about, coaching against the guy that you just spent so much time with over there at the Four Nations.
Yeah, it'd be different. It was a wild ride for 12 days. It was quite a thrill, and especially when you win, there's kind of a common bond between everybody that's a part of it. And absolutely, he was a huge part of us winning. But it's not just that. It wasn't the ice. There's a lot of the ice when you get to spend time and the other side would be most definitely be different. But you think about it when you winning Stanley Cups and whether it's your playing your first game against McDonough or Stamkos or Platt or Johnson. You go through these guys that are part of winning, and so it's tough. It's a difference.
Huh. Now, sometimes I think coaches will give you maybe a little bit more of a diplomatic answer, right? They'll give you the answer of, that was then, this is now. This is a different ball game. We appreciate the time we spent together, but now our focus is back on trying to win a Stanley Cup for our team. But that's not what you get from John Cooper. You get transparency, you get honesty, you get a guy that wears his emotion on his sleeve, even though he was a lawyer. And of course, at times he does keep things maybe a little bit closer to the vest, but not, I mean, this guy he speaks his mind, which is very refreshing when it comes to sports. So when he was asked that question initially, I was wondering what the answer was going to be like. How reverential is he going to be towards a guy like Connor McDavid, knowing that he's going to face him tonight? And you know how appreciative he is of Connor McDavid, not just because of the player, but the human being. And also, he scored the goal to help him win the Four Nations face-off. But to compare him to the Crosbys and the Lemieux and the Gretzkys of the world, it just shows you how the leader of Canadian hockey right now views the greatest player in the world. And of course, I wanted Team USA to win. No doubt about it. Red, white, and blue. That's the suit I wore the first game back here after the Four Nations, to stick it to John Cooper and Julien BriseBois. They both laughed at me. But there was also a part of me that was, I won't say glad Canada won, but I just felt like there was going to be some unjust and undue criticism towards John Cooper and Julien BriseBois if they would have lost. And I didn't think that would have been fair because of what Julien BriseBois and his crew did putting this team together, and the light and slight tweaks that John Cooper made with this team, putting Braden Point on that first line with Connor McDavid, sticking with Jordan Binnington the entire time. Those are the decisions that may not mean a lot, but when you win it all, you look at it and go, that contributed to the success of the team. That's a bond that John Cooper and Connor McDavid and that whole team, I mean, even looking at the guys here with Hagel, Cirelli, and Pointer, that's something that they're going to carry forever. So as much as maybe some people thought it was meaningless, those games, which I thought was asinine and idiotic to even say something like that, hearing what John Cooper had to say about Connor McDavid really opens your eyes, and it shows that impact is going to have a lasting effect. And then to take it a step further, you hear what John Cooper had to say when he made the analogy of the return of Connor McDavid tonight being like those Stanley Cup champions that won titles here with the Bolts returning to Amalie Arena for the first time by name, using when McDonough returned for the first time as a member of the Nashville Predators. He didn't even play. Remember, he had the black eye. He was up in the stands. Steven Stamkos returning earlier this year. Tyler Johnson when he came back. Andre Palat when he returned as a member of the New Jersey Devils. So for the people out there that thought this was a stupid exhibition, that it was a bunch of meaningless games, that you were worried that the players and the coaches and everybody involved wasn't going to take it seriously, listen to arguably the greatest coach in professional sports right now. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that he's the greatest coach in the NHL. But you look at John Cooper, one of the best to do it right now, and for him to compare Connor McDavid and seeing him on the ice to Steven Stamkos returning to Amalie Arena for the first time as a visiting member, that says a lot, because it's not just you're comparing a return that everybody feels. You're comparing a return that everybody in this organization felt. You had Stamkos' return circled on the calendar. And the emotion in the building that night is one of the more memorable moments probably in the last 4 decades of sports in this city. For John Cooper to say that the return of Connor McDavid and that type of emotion that he was going to feel was similar to that tells you all you need to know. Those games weren't meaningless. That tournament meant a lot to a lot of people. And I can't wait to see best on best again. Will we ever see a Four Nations again? Probably not. You're going to see World Cups. You're going to see Olympic hockey, and I think that's for the best. What's also for the best of this program is to talk more Lightning hockey, and we do it with our guy Benjamin Pierce, the beat writer for the Bolts. What's going on, bud? How are you feeling?
Hey man, good. It was a week. It was a week for sure, but the Lightning are always a fantastic distraction when things aren't going your way. So it certainly helped to see him get that big win the other night, and hoping for another one here tonight.
When can we hope to see you back at Amalie Arena, boss?
We'll see. We're kind of taking it day by day right now.
He's day to day, folks. He's day to day.
He's day to day. Yeah, it kind of came out of nowhere. So hoping to be back for sure next week. Hoping to maybe try to sneak in before the end of this week. But yeah, we got our rear kicked a little bit, so we're working our way back.
That boy. Give me your, before we start talking about the team. You just heard me talking about Cooper and McDavid and the Four Nations. Just give me your just entire takeaway from the tournament, because I don't think it could have gone any better other than the U.S. winning, but I don't think it could have gone any better as far as growing the game and the attention and eyeballs and discussion about the games. Like the NHL, to steal a baseball term, they hit a home run with this thing, didn't they?
Well, I'll tell you what, man, like you could tell talking to the guys in the weeks leading up to this, like before they even got there, this meant something to the people who were going to participate. This wasn't just a, hey, it's been a minute, we got to see some best on best. Like talking to somebody like Brandon Hagel, who really the first time he's got a chance to represent Canada, and Sorelli talking about, the World Juniors compared to their World Championship, compared to this, like this meant something. Before the game started, and then you see the games happening and you're seeing the fights and the physicality and the blocked shots. Like,
right.
What was the one situation we saw? I think it was Pointer maybe go down, or Gentz, I think it was, go to block Victor Hedman one-timer.
Oh, Sorelli.
On the Sorelli
on Hedman.
Yeah, I was
like, oh!
And I think everybody was like, oh my God, because
Right.
Heddy's got an absolute weapon for a shot. And it's like, just to see in that moment, like, it's those little details where it's like these guys, they want to win this, but it's not even like a want. Like there was real international pride on the line. And I think you got to give kudos to the NHL, because when this first came out, there were a lot of people that were like, this is a stupid gimmick to make money and yada, yada, yada. This tournament surpassed, I think, every expectation for nearly every fan. And you look at a channel like ESPN that obviously recently bought the NHL broadcasting rights, and so they've been more front and center of late. But to see people talking about the opening to that USA Canada game, those 3 fights in the first 9 seconds, and I'm sorry, but if you thought that was a dumb start to a hockey game, you are so out in left field on that take. That is so brutal, especially because they got to hockey after it happened, right? Like it's not like it was all game long, but like just the fact that there were people talking about hockey who literally know nothing about hockey except for it's played on skates and they have sticks in their hands. They wanted to watch that game. And if you would have told the people planning this Four Nations tournament, like, hey, listen, you're going to get to see USA Canada twice. You're going to get to see multiple NHL players represent their country for the first time.
Right.
And you're going to get thousands and thousands of people watching that would never have watched your sport. Like it is win, 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 win. It was a phenomenal tournament. Obviously, I'm a little biased. I was hoping for a USA victory there at the end, but I mean, even for Lightning fans, every single Lightning player had a phenomenal tournament, and it was a phenomenal tournament. And it gets you amped up for the Olympics. So hopefully we get to see plenty more of that.
Yeah, you got that right, man. And then when you look at the stop because of the Four Nations, you were like, oh man, the Lightning are playing so good. You don't necessarily want to stop. And with Vasi playing all those games, they needed those 4 games against divisional opponents down the stretch. Ottawa, a couple against Ottawa. You play against Detroit, Montreal. Everybody kept saying 2 weeks ago, this team can't beat anybody in the Atlantic Division. And then they showed them by winning the last 4 before the break. Before we get into what we saw the other night against the Kraken, what was the biggest thing that stood out to you about those 4 games before the break that allowed this Bolts team to go on a little bit of a run?
Well, number one for me is Vasi. Like it's just one of those things that you forget how lucky you are to watch a guy like that every night, and especially without Johansson, all of a sudden it's a matter of, do we want to throw in somebody like Halverson, like Tompkins, who hasn't played an NHL game yet this year? Or do we just say, hey, you got a 2-week break coming up here, Vass, you're going to have to just kind of lock in here 4 games in 6 days. And listen, you know it. I know it. If you go up to Andre Vasilevsky and say, what would you prefer? He wants that net every single chance that he gets. And sometimes he's one of those guys you almost have to tell, like, hey, let's just take a night off here, just reset. Just the way he played, I think just really reconfirmed, like, this guy is still at the top of his game. Obviously, last season, the numbers were what they were, but he was coming off the injury. There were some people like, what does this mean for Vasi's future? And he has been nothing short of a top, for sure, 10, if not a top 5 goalie in the NHL this season. And with all the injuries that the Lightning have been dealt, the fact that they've had him to kind of lean on through all of that has been so, so key. But in addition to that, they've also really spread the scoring around these last 5 or so games. They're getting contributions from bottom 6 guys like Cam Atkinson. And Nick Paul's played up and down the lineup, but he's on a 3-game goal streak. Like, that's what you need from this group, because Cooch is going to be Cooch. Braden Point's going to score goals. Jake Gensel's going to score goals, but you need some depth scoring. And, like, even a guy like Emil Lilleberg, he's obviously known as the big, tough, physical guy. He's up to 13 assists this season. For a third-pairing defenseman who's about to be on pace for 20-plus assists, like, that's just about all you can ask for. And then you throw in the physical side, too. Like, it's been a real team effort, and I think that's what impressed me the most.
Yeah, you look at Vazzy's numbers, and as of right now, is he tied for? He's got 232 goals against, so he's like just a shy behind Logan Thompson for 6th in the league, and then save percentage, he's 3rd in the league with a 920. So yeah, Vazzy is right in there. I mean, if it wasn't for the year that Connor Hellebuck was having, then we'd probably having a different conversation today. And then I know a lot of people were wondering, all right, are guys going to be tired? Are guys going to be jacked up in that first game after the break? I don't envy Detroit and Minnesota that had to play Saturday at 12:30. Yeah, the Bolts had to play Sunday at 6, which was good. But a guy like Brandon Hagel, who was fantastic in that game, and he wasn't even 100%. John Cooper let us know that he was kind of sick. I mean, he comes out, he scores that incredible backhander goal. How impressed were you that the Lightning were able to come out and to be able to win that game against Seattle on Sunday night?
Well, honestly, like, it was a pretty even game. I know the score was a little bit slanted, but like, Seattle had some good looks. They had some chances. And again, Vassy was strong, but even you look at the shots on net, like, the Lightning had some moments where they looked a little bit lost, maybe a little bit tired, just out of sync. But it was those top guys. I think I sent a tweet out in the middle of the first period, like, that Gensel, Point, and Kucherov combo to start the game had like 4 grade A scoring chances in the first 20 minutes. And it was like, did these 3 just go play together at a different, like, Four Nations tournament? Because they were so, it was like they didn't miss any time, and they hadn't played together for 2 weeks. And when you have that chemistry that those 3 have had this season, which I don't know if we were even talking about it enough, because it's so hard to come to a new team and play with other top players and just mesh the way that Jake Gensel has. It's been so impressive, and I don't think he's getting enough credit across the league. But just the fact that they were able to come out and find a way to get that win and to do it again as a group. Vassy had to be strong, defensively. You love seeing JJ get back on the blue line. And, I think for him, his return just to get on the ice was a step, and now it's okay. Let's keep moving up, keep getting back to where we were before we got hurt. But I was really impressed, because it has been a long 2 weeks. And sometimes we talk about the guys playing, but sometimes it's harder for the guys who got the 2-week break. Right. To maybe go to the beach with the family for a week and hang out. And then all of a sudden you're back and you're like, wow. I mean, geez, Jay, how many times have you taken a vacation and all of a sudden it's the last day and you're like, where the hell did my vacation go? Right.
Exactly. Yeah. You need a vacation from your vacation.
Seriously. So I just thought it was a really, really solid team effort of just guys saying, hey, we're going to find a way to get this done today. And just getting that first win back from whether it's the All-Star break, the Four Nations break every year is such a good way to say, okay, now let's build on it. And I think to do that first game back was big.
What did you make of Moser's return, and also with Darren Radish? Because That's something that I meant to ask Coop this today. I really feel that Darren Radish took his game to the next level when he was playing with Victor Hedman there. And I was a little not concerned, but you're keeping an eye on it, right? You're keeping an eye on like, all right, how well is he going to play if he's not playing with Hetty? Because I think the consensus was, all right, Moser's back. If Moser's back, he's going to play with Hetty. But what does that mean for Darren Radish? He's still going to be able to perform at a high level, not playing with 77. So what did you make of Mo's return, and also what Darren Radish was able to do not playing? And I know he did have some shifts with Hetty there. And I think it was the second period where there was some offensive zone time, and Lilleberg kind of got shortchanged a little bit there. They'll go 11-7 tonight, John Cooper. But just talk about Moser and Radish and what you saw from them.
I think for Moser, like you could tell it had been a while. But again, it's 28 games in the National Hockey League, and it was a major injury. I was really impressed with the fact that he played the second most minutes of any Tampa Bay Lightning defenseman. You know, it wasn't a let's ease him into this. It's let's see how you're feeling. Let's go. And when it's a major injury like that, I think if you're a Lightning fan, one big takeaway is that he played so much, because he goes out there and maybe realizes like, yeah, coach, I'm not going to be able to give you what I normally can. That's when you might see some scaled back minutes, but we didn't. And, you know, I thought the one thing too impressive with JJ was he's a very under the radar defenseman in the terms of he's not going to go out there and make that massive Emil Lilleberg style hit. He's not going to have the toe drag between the legs, gross scoring chance that a guy like Darren Radish might have. But he had 3 hits, a blocked shot. Like he's doing what he needs to do to stay involved. And I thought it was a very good return. You know, I'm sure, I don't know if you saw his interview with Gabby Shirley. And he just said, like, you know, I've been kind of chomping at the bit here, and it's just good to be back. And I think we're going to continue to see him get better every single game. I do think, I mean, just you look at the way Lightning fans reacted. People love this guy, man.
Yeah, they
already.
do.
They
They
love this guy.
And why do you think that is, Ben? Because, like, he's not a guy. It's weird, right? Because usually when you bring a guy in and he's not McDonough. He's not Hedman. He's not a big hitter. He hasn't scored a bunch of goals, but and I don't know if this is just the growth of the education of Bolts Nation, but there's a steadiness to his game that I think people really appreciate. And listen, Sergachev was a guy that won 2 Stanley Cups, and Geeky was the guy that made the team out of camp, right? So he wasn't even kind of the biggest name in the deal coming back this way. But you're right, man. And I noticed it at the Block Party Live when he was the guest there, and you could just hear it. Like, people in the Bay Area really like JJ Moser. Why do you think that is so early on in his tenure here?
You know what? I think the biggest thing with JJ is you can tell how much he loves the game. And have you ever seen JJ Moser have a bad day?
No, yeah, that's right.
Like even during his recovery process, you know, they'd come off the ice for a skate, and he's literally months away from playing again, and he's in the locker room, and you walk by and he smiles, and I'm not saying good morning to him. He's saying good morning, Ben. And I kind of like, it's the guy on IR saying good, like, what you just wouldn't expect it from almost any professional athlete. Like, I don't know if it's possible for JJ to have a bad day. And I think the team has appreciated that too. Like, I think he really does bring a positive influence on the group, and he's one of those guys that he's so smart. I feel like every time I talk to him, I learn something, you know, about his approach to the game or just the NHL in general. He just has kind of that personality that you want to be around. You want to be able to kind of pick his brain on things. And I think for Bolts Nation, it's welcomed. You know, he's one of those guys who doesn't mind doing the things like Bolts Beginnings or, you know, telling his story. And he takes a lot of pride in the fact that he's from Switzerland. And I know that he enjoys that. So I think there's some of that connection here too. But kind of going back to the Darren Radish piece of the question too, like, that's one guy that I had to admit when I came in, I was looking at the stats from a season ago. And I said, I'm like, how is Darren Radish having the season he just did? And so in the opening weeks when he was kind of the odd man out, and we were kind of waiting to see like what's going on here. And then I saw him play, and I'm like, this guy has, first off, a cannon of a shot. He might have the hardest shot on the team. Like, and I think like the nice thing with the Lightning is to have those options, because maybe then you can do some more of that opponent matching. And tonight with the 11-7, you have every defenseman at your disposal. So if you have a D-zone face-off, maybe you go with a Perbix and somebody else. You go with a Lilleberg matchup if all of a sudden Edmonton's thrown out that fourth line with Adam Henrique, and you're going to have to get a little bit greasier against former Bolt Corey Perry, right? Like,
right.
You have those options, but the fact that Darren Radish has the real offensive capability, and I think with Ratty too, the power play is a big part of that too. We've seen some movement on the power play lately, but he's been a guy who has a dynamic on the power play that you don't really get otherwise without Darren Radish. You know, you almost have to go all forwards on that second unit, or maybe we see JJ Moser take that spot potentially, you know, depending on how that all comes together. But like Ratty doesn't get, you know, again, a guy who has a lot of really, really strong puck skills, and he's got a cannon of a shot. I think the Lightning like where they're at right now on their decor, specifically because they have options. They can move stuff around. They have the option to say, we have 7 NHL defensemen, and it's just a matter of deployment and how or who we're playing.
Yeah, no doubt. And I kind of look at the decor and I'm like, all right, you're in a good spot. And I looked at the third line the other night and I'm like, all right, Gergensons, Gonsalves, they were moving, they were skating. And what do you think, Ben? Because we're getting closer and closer to the trade deadline. I really doubt that Julian Brisebois is just going to stand pat, because he's looking at kind of the middle six, the bottom six. All right, we need probably a little bit more of a scoring punch, whether that's 1 or 2 guys, whether you're calling Geeky back up, whether you're bringing a guy like Isaac Howard up when his college season is over. These guys are pretty much playing for a spot, aren't they? Some of these guys that are, and I wouldn't say maybe Glenn Denning or maybe a Zergensons, but I think the rest of those guys outside of Nick Paul, when you're looking at the bottom 6, when he does play down there, I think these guys are kind of looking around going, all right, well, if there's deals to be made and guys need to be brought in, I'm playing for a spot here. And I think you may see some of their best play. I think you might be seeing that from a guy like Gonsalves and maybe Gergensons right now.
Well, Gonsalves specifically, like, this is a guy who spent 20 games here, got his first NHL goal, and then kind of it just seemed like he needed maybe a little bit of a reset. They sent him down, and when he went down, it wasn't one of those, here we go, we'll see how the rest of the year goes. He was tearing the AHL apart when he went back down, like destroying every opponent he was playing. You could tell, like, this guy went to the NHL and took notes. Then he went down to the AHL again, took more notes. And when he came back to the NHL the second time, all of a sudden he had 3 points in his first 3 games back. I think it was 4 points, 4 assists across his first 5 games back. Like, that's what you want to see if you're a coach or a general manager, when you send a guy who's kind of around that 22, 23, like, this is a guy who could be taking that step to the full-time NHL. He's a guy you took fairly high on the draft. Like, you got to give Gonsalves credit, because how many guys get an opportunity, they go down, maybe they get another opportunity, and you can't really tell a difference. I think you're seeing a huge difference in Gage's game now from the first time we saw him early this season. And I don't know if it's confidence. I don't know if it's just a matter of, this might be my last chance to show what I've got, because obviously I don't know what those decisions or conversations look like, but I've been so impressed with Gage lately. And I think for the bottom 6, they've talked about this season, we want to contribute more offensively. And I mean, geez, the other night, if Luke Glendening keeps his unreal run, the Lightning have never lost when that guy scores. So, like, that pass from Cam Atkinson, Atkins is not playing tonight, but that those are the kind of plays that you need from your bottom 6, specifically down the stretch as you get closer to the playoffs, because the top 6 in those playoff matchups are often so just kind of break even.
Yeah, they kind of cancel each other out.
Right.
Yeah.
You need some of that bottom 6 push. You have to have it. And I think that's kind of why we're seeing, you look at a team tonight, Edmonton, they're obviously having some issues in goaltending, but if you look at their lineup tonight, they're trying McDavid, Draisaitl, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins all on different lines tonight.
Yeah.
1, 2, and 3 center. There was a point this season when their top line was Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins.
Right.
So they're kind of doing a little bit of what the Lightning are. I think every team is looking at, we have to try guys in different spots. We have to see what we have, maybe where we need to improve the most ahead of the trade deadline, which all of a sudden is literally 10 days away. Right? Like, it's, I don't know where the season went, but it's sneaking right up here. So it is kind of that true final test run for a lot of these teams. And I think the Lightning are kind of seeing that too.
What about? I wanted to get your opinion on Isaac Howard. I've been asking a lot of people. I mean, he's just absolutely crushing it for Michigan State. I know it's not like this for everybody, right? I know that some people are like, oh, we'll bring him down to the AHL, give him some time to kind of marinate down there, and then you bring him up. You know, I was looking at the Lightning ages the other day, and like, you guys aren't getting any younger. You know, there's not many guys on this team that are under 25. But I look at a guy like Isaac Howard, and I think if you bring him in here, you're not asking him to play first line minutes. You put him there on the second or third line. I just feel like, and you don't want to wait till next year because you want to be able to get him in the system. Like to me, he's done with college hockey after this year. There's no reason for him to go back. You're a top 1, top 2 scorer. And if you let him go back, you run the risk of losing him. We've seen that at times too. You let a guy go in and then he's a free agent, he goes plays for somebody else. And then you're like, you have all this hype for a guy like this. And now you don't even get to see the fruits of that labor. If you're Isaac Howard, I want to know why you wouldn't want to come play on a team like this, where you're looking at, you know, Stanley Cup champions and all that jazz. What do you make of the Isaac Howard situation? And do you think there is a possibility that we'll see him here in 2025?
You know, I think there's always that chance. I think one of the biggest things with the Lightning is this is a patient organization,
right?
But at the same time, like, this is a team that wants to win. And I think that depending on what happens at that trade deadline, right? Because if all of a sudden, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if the Lightning go out and make some ads up front, then maybe they say, well, we can sign some of these prospects. Maybe we can sign a guy like Isaac Howard, but maybe we start him in the American Hockey League. So he's not just thrown right into the NHL, right? Now, at the same time, the season that Isaac Howard is having is otherworldly. Like, this guy,
right?
And we talked about needing offense from the bottom 6. Isaac Howard's scoring at a pretty pace in the NCAA. You know, he's a guy that's leading the country in goals. Like, he sounds like the kind of guy you'd want to add to a bottom 6 that might be looking for some more offense, right? But again, there's so many moving parts to all of that, to every NHL roster around this time of year. I'd love to see it. I think fans would love to see it. But at the same time, like, the Lightning know what they have in Isaac Howard. And I think, I don't want to say that he's surpassed expectations. He's still a very young kid. There's still a lot of development yet to go. But you have to just be thrilled with what you're seeing for Isaac Howard. If you're the Lightning, if you're a Lightning fan, like, this guy, knock on wood, he looks like the real deal.
Yeah, I would love to see some semblance of, like, you know, bring Geeky back up, put him on that second line, you know, and then third line of a Nick Paul, Dylan Duke, and Isaac Howard, right? Like, something like that, you know, because that's the kind of thing where you start looking at, you almost start playing fantasy hockey in your head. Like, all right, well, out of all the guys in the organization, who can you bring in here? And like we said, there's going to be a deal made, right? We're probably going to bring in a forward at some point. Do you trade it 2 defensemen for 1 defense, right? Like, do you do something like that? Because I think when you look at Max Crozier, like, he's an NHL defenseman playing in the AHL. So where do you go there, right? What does that mean for the future of some of these other guys? So it's good to have options, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and again, it's one of those things we talked about, Brisebois, like, you have to give this management group so much credit because over the last 10 years, the amount of future assets that they've traded away to add to their playoff runs, to get guys like Nick Paul, to bring in guys like Jake Gensel. Obviously, that one was a little bit of a lighter price because he was a free agent, but like Ryan McDonough, like these, they've traded pretty high draft picks and they've traded prospects over the years to bring in guys for the stretch run. And they've still found a way to hit on draft picks further down the board. And then when they do get a first round pick, look at what they do with Isaac Howard, right?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't get much better than that because it is a hard league to draft in. You know, it's sometimes the NFL, there's years where there's 41 guys that are going to play, that are going to start the next year. That never happens in the NHL, ever. Right? There's normally 4 to 5 guys that are going to play top 6, top 4 D minutes, and the rest of them are either breaking in, maybe going to split time between the NHL and the AHL. It just, or they go back to college. It doesn't happen that often. So the fact that the Lightning have been able to say, let's make sure that we're hitting on these picks and let's take chances on guys that we like, that we think maybe there's more to this player now than he's showing even. And you have to give credit to the development, the scouting. It's this organization, man. They do it the right way. That's for sure.
Benjamin J Report on Twitter /X. Go check him out. Does a lot of great things for our Tampa Bay Lightning as the beat writer. Ben, miss you, man. I hope you feel better soon. We miss you in the building. So hope to see you back at Amalie sooner rather than later. You heal up, get some rest, and enjoy the game tonight, man. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks, buddy.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
You got it, pal. Benjamin Pierce. Really, really good stuff there as we are here at Amalie Arena. Our guy Ian Beckles will join us here momentarily to talk some football, some other NFL news. Chiefs General Manager Brett Veach expects fired up Travis Kelce to play in 2025. A little surprised there. People were wondering if that was going to be it for Travis Kelce. That's it, man. No more football for you. We'll ask our guy Ian Beckles. How about a update on our Tampa Bay Rays 0-0 as they are right now in Port Charlotte. So there's the Rays action for you. So, man, how about Danny Jansen, catcher that they brought in the offseason, hitting home runs 2 of his first 3 games? Good to hear there. For the Rays today, cranky right shoulder for Ben Rortvedt, Kevin Cash said, so he's going to miss a few days, and also Xavier Isaac dealing with some elbow soreness. The lineup today, you're looking at Yandy Diaz at first, Brandon Lau, Eloy Jimenez, Christopher Morel, Richie Palacios, Curtis Mead, Jose Caballero, Chandler Simpson, Logan Driscoll, and Taj Bradley on the mound. And a lot of people looking at Chandler Simpson and what he's been able to do with that speed on the base pass and also in center field. Watch out, man. We've been talking a lot about Carson Williams and Xavier Isaac and Trey Murray and all these other guys. Watch out for Simpson. You want to talk about elite tools, maybe a little bit different, put him out there. What I want to see, and I understand how the Rays build their team, but I want to see guys that are threats. We could see pitchers, starting rotation, relievers, the guys that are threats there with their fastball, with their off-speed pitches, right? What they can do working with Kyle Snyder to accentuate some of those strengths. But hitter-wise, I go back to, even though the Rays made and stay with me on this one. So the Rays made it to the World Series in 2008 and 2020. But when you look at the offenses that scared you as an opposing team against the Rays, I look at that 2018 and I look at Crawford, I look at Upton, and I look at Longoria. And you knew out of those 3 guys that you needed to be careful. The 2020 season, you look at it, was like G-Man, Lau, Adames, looking at who else was on the team, obviously you had KK there as well. Randy was the big guy. But when I look at fear from a group, you look at those 3. Randy was obviously had an incredible performance, so I'm not going to put him in there. But I'm talking more about speed on the bases and what BJ Upton and Carl Crawford were able to do when they got on first base, and before you knew it, they were on second, and they were probably going to go to third. And then you had Longo in the middle of the line doing what he was able to do during his Rays career. But for a team that struggles finding a lot of guys that can, be able to be 300 hitters, be able to be 30 home run, 40 home run, 100 RBI guys, there's got to be different ways to slice it. And that's something that I really was hoping that the Rays could do over these last couple of years, is find different ways to be productive offensively. They're so freaking ahead of the curve when it comes to pitching and defense. They look at things in a different way. They've done the shift. They've done the opener. They do so many different things where you look at it and you go, who would have thought of something like that? That's how they're able to compete with payrolls that are twice as much or 3 times as much as them. But offensively, what have the Rays done offensively that has been cutting edge? That has shown people, hey, they can find a way to be 2 steps, 3 steps, 5 steps ahead of the competition. That's one of the more mind-boggling things when it comes to all of sports. How could the Rays be so forward-thinking pitching-wise and defensively, but still really be behind the 8 ball when it comes to offense? How come they haven't come up with like a new hit and run technique or a new way to bunt or a new way to steal, right? It's just very weird because I understand it's harder to go get those bats in free agency because they cost more. I understand that. But when you look at the entire offensive approach and offensive game plan, how come that has been something that they've had difficulty doing? I don't know. And they are a team that struggles to score runs, and they're hoping that this year, and as we keep moving on the next couple of seasons, that's something that they can improve on. And we're seeing some news here from Colleen Wright from the Tampa Bay Times. The Woodson African American Museum of Florida is pulling its request for $10 million from Pinellas County due to uncertainty surrounding the redevelopment of the historic gas plant district and plans to build a new Tampa Bay Rays Stadium. The executive director, Terry Lipsy Scott, wrote a letter to the county commission, which was considering the request at its meeting. The item will be pulled off the commission's agenda. So that is not a step in the positive direction when it comes to the Rays and this entire situation. The Woodson is seeking to relocate to the gas plant to a new 2-story, 41,000 square foot facility expected to cost $38 million. And we know that throughout this entire process, it wasn't just the stadium. It was also everything that was built up around it. And Stu Sternberg, that was kind of the big thing in his deal, where even if he sold the team, he would still own that land around the new stadium. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going in that direction. All right, I got Ian Beckles going to join us. Ready yet? Or we're waiting for you.
Oh, no, I'm ready. Oh, over here. How do I hit this here?
Hit that TV, man. We got to see that beautiful face of yours, kid.
Oh, yeah.
There
Here we go. Here we go.
Young blood.
Wagwan.
What's going on, brother?
The answer to all your sorrows is Chandler Simpson. When he comes, he's going to take care of everything. You know that, no?
What happened? What did you do?
I'm just trying to bring something up. Chandler Simpson. You didn't bring up him as far as the speed and the raise and stuff like that.
Who's there with you right now telling you about
Aaron
this?
Jacobs.
I knew it. You were saying Chandler Simpson so confidently, like you knew who the hell he was. You thought Chandler Simpson was Homer and Marge's long lost son.
He's not. I thought he was, but he's fast though.
He's fast. He's quicker than a hiccup. He made
second rounder 2022. You know me. I do my investigative journalism.
You thought Chandler Simpson was Bart's cousin who stole his skateboard.
He's nice though. He's nice
though. Did Aaron tell you about our golfing expeditions yesterday?
I was listening to Drew Garabo yesterday, and he said he didn't golf, and the fact that you and Aaron were out there golfing in that, God bless you, because that's you really want to golf, because I'm not sure I'm golfing in that ever.
The great Paul Delegato said something that it was like one of the wettest days in the history, and I was like, and me and Aaron got out there for 12 holes. And we were behind Dave Randorf and a couple of the Edmonton Oilers TV guys, and they were playing very quickly. No, they weren't. My man Aaron was like, God dang it. But I saw them today, and they said, I didn't think that we'd ever enjoy a hot shower in Tampa more than yesterday because it was absolutely soaking. But Aaron hit some good shots out there. We had a lot of fun, man. It was a good time.
He was bragging on your game, saying you hit the ball well. And listen, you know me, Jay. I'm not a complainer, but playing golf in the cold sucks. Like
it does, man.
When your hands are cold. Like I played in really cold weather, you wouldn't hear a peep from me. But when it's cold and you have that golf club feels different, you don't hit the balls, you don't hit it square. It sucks. So good for you.
Yeah, the club was kind of some of those, like the club's slipping out of my hands, and then you're just like, what do you do? You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. We had some nice shots, and we had a good time. That was the most important thing. I wanted to ask you about one of the big stories coming out of the Combine up in Indianapolis. You went to the Combine a couple of years ago. What was your takeaway of the whole thing? And where do you stand when it comes to the Combine really telling you how good these players are? Because I find it hard to believe that you're looking at a guy wearing, Under Armour t-shirts, sleeveless with shorts on. And what that guy does there is more important than the 4 years you just watched him on tape.
Well, I mean, I watched the Combine. It's something that I could actually watch. I enjoy watching. I could just sit here and watch guys run and lift. And it's just, I enjoy watching it. So I actually went a couple of years ago. I went there, it was boring as hell. You know, Indianapolis was cold and gray, and I was just falling asleep in the stands. So it's not something I need to do again. But as far as the evaluation of players goes, if I'm a scout, 90% of it would be what I see on film. I think the combine, when you see the testing part, that's more for the media and for the pageantry and all that stuff. And you do every once in a while see stars created. But how many times have you seen stars created at the combine and they get drafted high and it really pans out? That doesn't happen that often because for me, if you run a 4.2 at the combine, which is blistering fast, and your film doesn't have you catching 60 balls your senior year, I'm going to ask why, because the next year you're going to have bigger, longer, faster dudes with their heads in your face, and they're going to be just as fast as you. So if to me, if your film doesn't say it, and I'm the kind of guy that I don't care what you run. If that film is badass, I'm picking that player because it's about football and feel and not actual numbers.
Yeah, isn't that? And baseball is probably the worst of this when you're so analytically driven, but it's just one of those things where you get too fancy in situations like this when it comes to analyzing these players. Because at the end of the day, a guy might not grade out great, but if he's just a dog on the football field, that stuff's going to supersede any of the numbers anyway, isn't it?
Well, you would think so, Jay, but listen, I went through at all levels, and I remember my senior year at Indiana. We had a scout from the Raiders come in, and he looked at me. He goes, "What number are you, son?" I said, 75. And he goes, "Beckles?" And I go, "Yes, sir." And he says, "You're a hell of a football player, son. It's too bad you ain't 6'5". And I go, "What difference does that make?" He goes, 4 inches. And I said, "Okay, but what about on the football field?" He goes, "Lots of money." That's how he talked to me. So I was thinking at that time, okay, if I'm 6'5", I'd be rich, but I'm 6'1". But if I was 6'5" and everything's equal, they're going to pick the 6'5" guy. I get that. But it's to a point where I have to be so much better than the 6'5" guy because he's the protocol. My backup in Philadelphia was George Hageman. You ever see George Hageman? George is 6'7", 360. He's not fat. He's probably just as fast as me. He has longer arms than me. But why was he behind me? I mean, that's stuff you could never measure. And I don't think there's anything more inexact than choosing a football player because you could be great in college and absolutely suck in the league.
A big topic of conversation there at the combine is the tush push and, the brotherly shove. And the Philadelphia Eagles have done such a masterful job of every single time, it seems like, unless they play the Bucs, they're going to get it. They're going to get it regardless of who the opposition, regardless if they have big guys in the middle or not, if they have linebackers jumping over the line of scrimmage. And now people are talking about getting rid of it. And Raheem Morris came out today, said he wasn't a fan. And, the one name that I think was a little peculiar was Sean McDermott. He was questioning it because of the health and the safety concerns. And they're the team that probably does it the second most behind the Philadelphia Eagles with Josh Allen as the quarterback. What do you make of the tush push as far as the health and safety concerns? Do you think that they're going to try to ban it or at least adjust it so that they're, it's a little bit more palatable when it comes to the health? Because you and I have spoke for years. NFL don't care about their health. They want product, man. They're just, you know what I mean? That's just, don't give me this whole thing. They really care about their health because there's other things they could do to take more precaution. But what do you make of the tush push?
First of all, the NFL absolutely doesn't care about our health. There's Thursday night football, and there's guys that have 4 days rest before they go do that again. They don't care about their health. I don't want to hear about that. What game was it when there was a tush push and somebody got hurt? Show it to me. I haven't seen it. It may have happened, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's not like it's happening on every play where it's like they're like, oh, the long-term damage. Like, yeah, they really care about long-term damage. Look how they deal with concussions. Yeah, I'm not trying to hear that. Yeah, I'm with you. It'd be one thing if on every single play a guy was going down, right? Or every other player, you knew like once a game, like that guy's jacked up from the tush push. I know you did see Chris Jones. His neck got a little jacked up there in the Super Bowl in the tush push. But, I mean, that's the reason why it stands out because it don't happen very often, it seems.
Yeah, and listen, I have absolutely no issue with the tush push. When you talk about Raheem and McDermott, those are guys who are just crying because they can't stop it. Okay,
Mhm.
they probably lost because of the tush push. They're tired of trying to defend the tush push because they don't know how to do it. If you can't stop it, then do it. It's that easy. If it's unstoppable, do it. Like, listen, don't you think it's crazy? One of the best scorers of all time was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he had a sky hook, and nobody's ever done it since. That means
Right.
it ain't easy, right? It's
Mhm.
got it's got to be hard. So you can't tell me the tush push is easy. There's got to be some science in it, and in some way Philadelphia mastered this thing. And I'm not a Philadelphia fan at all, and I played there for 2 years, but I don't want to hear nobody crying about something. I play NCAA and Madden. It's like somebody going, "You're only running one defense. You can't move the ball. Why would I ever run another defense?"
Right.
So I don't want to hear people crying that lost to the tush push. You do it then.
Travis Kelce just announced that he's gonna, or the general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs just came out and said that Travis Kelce's fired up for the 2025 season. Surprised at all that he's coming back? I thought it looked like, I mean, he really good in that first playoff game against the Texans, but the last two games left a lot to be desired, and I think people were kind of look at, all right, all the stuff that he's got off the field. Is this really a priority? Does he really want to go through training camp again? Looks like he's going to come back. Does that surprise you at all?
No, absolutely not. I mean, if you give me a list of NFL players that retired when they were still top 20, it'd be a very short list. It doesn't work like it. What would happen is he would retire, he'd make everybody crazy, and then halfway through the season he would just sign with another team. Even when I was done with ball, 2 years later, when I was doing the John Gruden show with the great John Gruden,
Highly
uh,
rated.
he he grabs my arms and he goes, "You could still play." I'm like, he goes, "Seriously, you could still play." And he messed me up. Like, I swear to God, I went back home. I started lifting weights. I'm like, you know what? I missed this. I can go back. It's not something you just step away from and everything's just hunky dory, okay? Because I don't know who I was talking to the other day. With some other, maybe it was Derek Brooks on the podcast, but we were talking about getting introduced. What do you think replaces that? But
Nothing.
getting introduced by 70,000 of your fans and you're running out and 70,000 people are cheering for you. What the hell? Like, I taught spin class for 20 people. It wasn't the same. Okay. So filling that void is hard. And if he just steps away from something when he can still play, they're still talking about Tom Brady coming back. He might come back. I don't know. But it's just one of those things. It sounds easy, but it's really hard to do.
Yeah, and it's another thing too, where I just saw something today that they're talking about Rob Gronkowski possibly coming back at 36 years old. It's easier said than done, right? It's easier on the sideline to be like, I heard this and I heard that, but to be able to suit up again and go through, like, what's the hardest part then when you go back? Is it the games? Is it the practice, the training camp? Is it the length of the season? What would be the most difficult thing for a guy that maybe took a year off to try to come back?
Well, once again, if you give me a list of players that took a year off and came back and succeeded, it would be a very short list, okay? It's just not something, it's hard to do. I was out for a little bit of a time because of the injury the year before. Then I came back to play the next year. Everything hurt more. Things didn't make sense anymore. I remember cramping up and locking up before my last day in Denver. My whole body locked up, and I had to call the trainer, and they put 4 bags in me, and I just looked in the mirror and I was like, this ain't easy no more. And I don't know if I really, because I love it. Oh, just play 2 more years. This is not chess. Okay, you practice. I'm not going out and practice. My last 2 years, I never practiced. So you're gonna come back after a year and they expect you to practice and this and that. I mean, it has to be the perfect situation, but football's not something you can fake anytime soon, brother. There's no faking in that sport.
Bucks and Lovey's not Lovey. Oh my gosh. Todd Bowles is speaking right now. I just saw something on Lovey earlier. That's why. Bowles is talking about edge rushers, cornerbacks, inside linebackers, wide receivers are the positions that he thinks that they'll be focused on during the combine. If you're looking at this Buccaneers team, what are those positions? Like, if you rank them, what is the number one position that you think the Buccaneers should address and keep an eye on at the combine?
First of all, you tell me that we're giving up on Joe Tryon-Shoyinka? Is that what you're saying? Now, Jay, tell me, is this a no more JT? I'm gonna miss him.
Ian, I'm going to tell you something right now. You, from the very beginning, and I got to be honest with everybody, okay?
Please.
A lot of people say a lot of things, but Ian was the guy from the very, very beginning that looked at Joe Tryon-Shoyinka and said he might break the sack record for most sacks in the season.
You're close. You're close.
You thought I was going the other way.
I mean, I understand.
Bro,
No,
I cannot tell. And I think people know, right? Because we've been friends for so long. But you saw it. You never saw it with that guy. And, we would sit there sometimes and we'd have more people on. And he was always the sexy pick for 10 sacks this year for this guy. And then it's funny because the years would go by and it wouldn't even be excuses. It would just be he's a hell of an athlete. He's a hell of an athlete. And it was just eventually you kind of got to look at it and go, when does he become a good player? When do you go from a good athlete to a good player? And I feel like you can say that now. You can say that now in the combine, right? I think now's the time when you say a guy's a good athlete. All right, fine. Let's see how it works. But if you're still saying that after year 3, at the end of the day, he was on the field, right? So his availability was there, but probably one of the worst draft picks at the bar. I'm not going to say ever because that bar is very low.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to talk about in the last 4 or 5 years, this is probably one of the worst draft picks that Jason Licht had.
Well, I didn't see anything early, okay? And that happens sometimes. Warren Sapp wasn't great his first year. He wasn't. But in the midst of him not being great, there'll be a play go, whoa, what was that? You could see it, okay? Malik Neighbors, you like the Giants, okay? He had a good year, but right from the rip, I'm whoa, he's a little different. What play was it where JTS did something? Because I could tell you every sack he got, he ran around the hump, or he beat a tackle that was slow off the ball, and he beat him around the hump, and he got a sack. I've always said, before you become good as a rush end, you have to be able to run through the tackle. Period. You can't give me one great rusher from the end, including Simon Rice, who wasn't really a physical player, but he would bull rush the crap out of somebody, go inside, beat somebody clean. JTS was almost winning by luck. Unfortunately, Gaines Adams did the same thing, and I saw that immediately. Oh, he got a sack, but he ran around the hump, and the quarterback got flushed into him. That is not a sack to me. If you're not strong enough, and JTS is one of those guys every year, athlete. It reminds me of Mike Glennon. Tall. What the hell has that got to do with playing quarterback? He can't play quarterback.
He got lots
of neck, and he's tall. JTS, he's a great athlete, but I've never seen it. If he's a great athlete, wouldn't he have made a play at linebacker? He played linebacker at the end, and he was dropping in coverage. He didn't. Did you ever see the ball hit his hands? So why is he a great athlete? He certainly doesn't have football instinct. So rest in peace and good riddance.
Did you know that Mike Glennon checks into hotels under the pseudonym Ian Beckles?
I understand. Me and him, we do look similar.
Ian Beckles and Ian Nichols.
Right.
Titans are saying that Travis Hunter can play 2 ways in the NFL. And somebody asked me the other day about my hot take, right? When it comes to the NFL draft, I have big time reservations about Travis Hunter. I got all of the guys in the top 5, whether it's Carter, whether it's Shador, whether it's Cam Ward, any of those other guys. I just don't know how this is going to happen, right? What is he going to do, Beck? Because he's not the biggest guy. It's not like he's 6'4", right? Is he a guy that's going to play receiver the entire time and then moonlight on defense and be a secondary, like a dime, piece there? Is he going to be a starting corner, which I think a lot of people think that's the route he's going to go, be a starting corner and then be like a gadget play offensively? Because, Beck, if he does that, he's not the same guy that he was at Colorado. Part of the reason why I think he's getting drafted the high is because of the mystique, because he's doing things in college that we've never seen playing on both sides of the ball. We haven't seen that 100 years ago. We saw that, right? When they're playing with leather helmets. But if he's not doing that same thing at the professional level, is he going to be that good? Is he going to be Sauce Gardner on one side and Malik Neighbors on the other? I think there's a lot of questions there. And if I had a top 5 pick, I don't know if I would invest it on Travis Hunter because there's a lot of questions. What do you make of that?
See, I think I'm on the other side of the fence. I would, if you gave me a choice between Travis and Shedeur, I'm taking Travis, okay? Because Shedeur, I think he could be a good quarterback, but I just don't like good young quarterbacks, okay? It just, a lot of times you can have what it takes and it still doesn't turn out well.
Right.
Physical, your body doesn't make it. You have some tough times early and, the press is on you. To me, Travis Hunter is one of those guys that he reminds me of Antoine Randall L. And speaking of Indiana, IU baby, talk to me. Antoine Randall L. back in the day when he was at Indiana, one of the GAs, I talked to him, one of my old boys, Todd Walker, and he said, we got this freshman kid, Antoine Randall L., and we don't know where to put him. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, it doesn't matter where he goes. He's the best player. I think that's Travis Hunter. I think Travis Hunter, every level of football he's ever played, he's just been substantially better than everybody else. And obviously, because who the hell plays the whole game on both sides of the ball? That's crazy. Okay,
but I'm glad you brought that up though, because Antoine Randall L. was one of the best athletes, right? When
Correct.
It comes to the NFL.
Yes.
2nd round pick, right?
Correct.
But he's not a Hall of Famer. He's not even close to being a Hall of Famer. He was a really good player that played multiple spots in the pros, right? That's my thing. Is it's not a collection of all of the things that you can do. It's about what's the one thing that you do great, right? If Travis Hunter turns out to be a nice player, a niche player, but he doesn't end up being a Pro Bowler and a Hall of Famer, that's not a good pick. If you're a top 5 pick, you're hoping that this guy is a franchise changer. So if he's a very nice guy, or if he turns out to be an Antoine Randall L., but he's maybe slightly better, but he's not a Hall of Famer, he's not a Pro Bowler and not an all-pro guy, that's my concern, right? I think he could do some great things, but is it more of a novelty rather than a success thing? Because I think you need a top 5 pick to be like that, or if you're going to draft the number 1, that's got to be a black or white thing. It's got to be he's either a great player or he's not a great player, right? There's a lot of grays to Jameis Winston, but at the end of the day, even though at the time it was a great pick because nobody else was, what an idiotic pick there. It was either him or Mariota, and the majority of the people were taking Jameis anyway. But it wasn't a good pick because it didn't work out. Nobody's faulting it and saying it was a bad decision, but the pick didn't work out. That's my concern. Can you kind of see that where I'm coming from for Travis Hunter?
No, absolutely. And listen, there's going to be a concern from every single player that you pick in the draft. Okay, that's the way it goes. I compared him to Antoine Randall L., not so much for his stock, but for his versatility and his athletic ability. Okay, they play different positions, but Travis Hunter, I know he's that guy. If you put him at quarterback, he could probably play quarterback. Now, if you redrafted, I always say where somebody was drafted has nothing to do with how good they are, because like I was a 5th rounder. If they redrafted it, there's no way I get to go to the 5th round because there was numerous guards ahead of me that never played one down. So I would have to go up. How many guys that got drafted ahead of me never played? So if we did the draft again, I would be maybe a 3rd rounder, maybe 2nd, possibly. Antoine Randall L., we do the draft again, I think he gets into the 1st round because there's a lot of dudes in the 1st round that don't give you 10 years of quality football. And even if it's a number 5, okay, even if it's number 1, if you get 10 years of quality football out of your number 1, you better take that immediately. Because even not even all pro, not even Hall of Fame, just 10 years of quality starts, take it. Because the other end of the spectrum is never played a good game like Jamarcus Russell, having to watch the guy for 5 years like JTS. Like, you see, how much better was Antoine Randall L. than Joe Tryon-Trianka? Like, Antoine Randall L. changed games. Joe Tryon-Trianka didn't even change one drive that I watched in 5. I don't understand why he was still on the team the last year. I don't understand.
He changed his cleats. He's really good at cleat changing.
He's a great athlete.
Oh, wow. Todd Bowles actually. Wow. Pewter Report just put this out about Bowles on JTS. Check this out.
Oh boy.
Bull says he thinks Joe Tryon-Shenka did everything right for them except for get to the quarterback with regularity.
Or make a play. I mean, that's pretty. I was gonna say political, but that doesn't.
Thank you, Scott Reynolds. Bulls made it clear that JTS did everything they asked of him except for get to the quarterback, which he made sure
get any tackles on the run.
Which he made sure to mention was the main job of an edge rusher.
Okay, but you can listen.
Man.
Yaya Diaby doesn't really get to the quarterback, but he doesn't bother me
Right.
because I see him playing hard.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Tryon-Shenka, every time he loses contain, he rushes up the field. He's 5 yards by the quarterback. What are you doing? I didn't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he played hard, right? But and he showed up early, right? He showed up early. He stayed late.
Yeah.
Just wasn't talented. I mean, that's the hard part. People don't want to hear that kind of stuff, right? People always want to well, he did this and he did this and he did this. And I feel like if you have to make excuses for a player, you know what you don't want to say? He just wasn't good. That's it.
Jay, the hardest worker on the team a lot of times is not nearly the best player, brother. You could be a hard ass. Joe Tryon-Shenka could get there at 4 o'clock and leave at 10 at night. I don't care. He has no football instincts. He has no leverage. He has no strength. He has no oomph. Man, I grew up watching Lawrence Taylor. When Lawrence Taylor put his foot on that damn ground, brother, there was fear in the stands. Who did JTS fear? I would pick him. Who do you want to block? I want to block JTS. I'm picking him because I know at the end of the game, there's going to be, no nicks on my helmet. He ain't going to try to run me over. He's going to try to finesse me, and I'm going to have a day off. And he gave a lot of tackles days off.
Did you ever have to block Lawrence Taylor?
I know you're a Giants fan, but I actually put Lawrence out, and he missed the first game of his career because I cut him and I hurt his knee. I'm sorry.
Son of a bitch.
I know. I'm sorry.
JT, my bad. I thought you were going to say something about JTS. Well, if he developed a coke problem like Lawrence Taylor, he might have been able to get to the quarterback. Somebody out there is going to say some crazy shit like that.
First of all, I don't think it's a problem when you're getting 20 sacks. It doesn't sound like a problem to me because I don't care if it's on your nose in the game time. If you're getting 16, 20 sacks, brother, I don't care.
They're like, Lawrence, you got a mustache. She's like, what mustache?
Yeah,
right.
Like
that, hanging out with Rick
Lawrence
James.
showing up to the game late because he had a golf outing. I mean, who gets you? Got to be talented if Bill Parcells allowed you, and he put him in the game.
And the craziest thing, one of the most hard-ass coaches in all of professional sports,
ever.
And he made exceptions for Lawrence Taylor and tell him he told Bill Belichick. Think about that. Bill Parcells told Bill Belichick, why are you starting the meetings then without Lawrence? What time's the meeting?
What are you, stupid?
What are you
crazy?
Certain people. That's what happens with Kucherov with the Lightning. They're it's Cooch. What are you going to do?
Well, the thing is, once you turn into an a-hole, you got to go. But these guys, even at the end of his career, Lawrence Taylor was still a badass, brother.
Yeah, still amazing, man. At Beckles, at Ian Beckles, not Ian Neckles. That's Mike Lennon's check-in name when he goes to the local Ramada Inn for his thing. Beckles and Recher podcast tomorrow at around 3:15 there from the Dignitary Cafe, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard. Beck, always fun, my brother. I'll see you tomorrow afternoon.
Be good, brother. One love.
One love. The one and only Ian.H. Beckles, killing it as always. Again, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard. Let's read some of these things that we heard from Todd Bowles, who just spoke over at the NFL Combine. He says that when it comes to DB evaluation for the draft, the film is everything. Then when it comes to the Combine, the interviews are huge. See if the mental side matches up with the physical tools that show up on film. Yeah, I mean, when you think about that, that is something to certainly keep an eye on when it comes to the cornerback position, because for many years, he wants a bigger guy, right? He wants a taller guy, a guy that can tackle in space. But unfortunately, they have had their issues when it comes to taking the football away. And that's what this team needs. The Buccaneers need some guys on the outside that can not only cover, not only tackle, but take the ball away. They need some turnovers, for God's sake. Holy smokes. Bulls think that they Michael Pratt, very talented. This spring will be important for him. If they lose Kyle Trask, they'll likely look to add another quarterback. There you go, Todd Bowles. Regarding the tush push, he says when a team gets something they're good at, they're going to keep doing it. It's up to teams to figure out how to stop it. The fix can't be jumping straight to take it out of the game. And also, he's not saying that they should, ban it. Bull's also saying Levante David needed some time after the season, and they gave him that time. He called David when Mike Caldwell came back and was excited about that. He just hasn't committed to his future yet. Let's see anything else. But Todd Bowles and Wooditz told him that they're on their third OC in the last 3 years after the previous 2 left to take jobs as head coaches. He said, number one, it tells me I don't get a vacation, but it tells me we're picking the right guys. All right, we'll take on all of that tomorrow. We'll talk some more football tomorrow on the program as well. It is a Wednesday. We're going to have Cole Russo and Alexa Russo from the University of Tampa on tomorrow. Stand up for softball and baseball. Eric Erlinson is going to join us on the program. Thursday, we have Tracy West from the Valspar going to join us, as well as Ed Encina. Friday, Eric Luxus and Eric Beatty, 2 of the best high school coaches around. They're going to join us on the program as well. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at JRetcher, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. It is freezing in here. This is what happens when you go cover a team and you don't have your suit on, because I got USF tonight. So 6 o'clock, first pitch will be around 5:45 on Bulls Unlimited on the South Florida Bulls Radio Network. So go check us out there. USF and FIU after the Bulls won 2 of 3 up there at Georgia Southern. Let's see if they can keep their winning ways going. They take on UCF this weekend. That should be good as well. A big thank you to everybody that joined us on the program today. Josie Foreman from USF Softball, Benjamin Pierce, the beat writer for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and my good pal Ian Beckles, the Beckles and Recher podcast tomorrow at 3:15 over there at the Dignitary Cafe. Go check them out, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard. All right, that's going to wrap it up for me. I hope everybody had a wonderful this past weekend and a great time watching the show today. Back in action live from, am I going to be home? I'll be home tomorrow at noon right here on the Jay Recher podcast. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Go Bolts, go Bulls.